Welcome back to DIY My Way. In part 1 you saw me install the rear lights, and in part 2 you'll see me install the front light, and I'll tell you about the charging port that I installed on here to make it much easier to hook up and charge. I begin by mounting the Nightlight 72 watt 12-inch spot and floodlight combo light bar to the front windshield overhang of the roof, centered of course. To give it extra support and stability, I used 2 3/8" Fender Washers on the underside, along with the hardware that came with the light. Then I adjust the angle of the light bar to shine straight ahead. Notice I've already attached a male waterproof connector. Once the angle is set, I tighten the angle bolts. By the way, there's a materials list in the video description. Next, I've removed the charging indicator so that I can put the light bar switch in that spot. I'll relocate the charging indicator to elsewhere on the dashboard shortly. I disconnect the charging indicator connector. Then pry the indicator from the panel. Now I can install the light bar switch with the wiring harness already connected to it. As a reminder from part 1, this is how the switch connects. And here's a simplified wiring diagram of both the front light bars and the rear lights. And this is the 12-volt terminal block that supplies the power for the lights. As I did with the rear lights, I run 2 conductor 16-gauge wire through the battery compartment to the front of the Ranger. I label the wire as LB for light bar. Then I use a clear piece of heat shrink tubing to ensure the label stays put. Then I separate the conductors, cut the black wire to length, and strip the end of the black wire. Then crimp an eyelet connector to it. I removed the nut from the negative terminal post and put the eyelet connector on the post. Next, I label the red wire as LB as well. And crimp a female spade connector to the end. Then feed the red wire toward the light switch. And make the connection. And make a harness to bring the power from the switched 12-volt terminals to the light bar switch. It has 2 eyelet connectors on one end and 2 female spade connectors on the other. eyelets connect to the 12-volt terminals, black to the negative terminal and red to the switched positive terminal. Likewise at the switch, black to black and red to red. I measure off enough wire to reach the light bar, then cut it to length. Then I route it up and along the ROPs. Once I reach the front of the roof, I poke the wire between the roof and the ROPs, so that the end is outside the cabin. Then I crimp on a female waterproof connector so that the polarity will match that of the male connector on the light bar. I connect them together. It's time to relocate the charging indicators, so I use a hole template I made and my Starrett automatic center punch to mark where the switch hole will be. Then I use a utility knife to score the outline of the switch hole. For the vertical scoring, I use another utility knife blade as a straight edge. Using my Dremel tool with a right angle attachment and a plastic cutting wheel, I cut out the hole. And finish cutting it out with utility knife. There, fits like a glove. Next I need to make an extension cable for the charging indicator wires, so I cut the blue and green wires leading to the connector to have enough left on both ends to splice to the extension. A 20-inch long piece of the 2-conductor 16-gauge wire will do for this, with barrel connectors to connect it all up. Black to green and red to blue. I crimp barrel connectors to the charging indicator connector. Again, black to green and red to blue. I press the connector onto the charging indicator. Does it work? Yes, it does. By the way, I ran 2 more wires to the front of the Ranger for a couple of more mods you'll see in upcoming videos. To protect these wires, I use 3/4 inch split wire loom, which I push onto the wires hoping it will stay on and make it all the way to the battery compartment. Did it? Yes, it did. I tidy up the wire loom in the front. Then use a length of 5/8 inch wire loom to protect the wires passing through the battery compartment. Once the wire loom is on, I tighten up the zip ties and cut off the excess. I also use wire loom to protect the wires going up the rods. While we are waiting for nighttime to take a test drive with the lights, now is a good time to show you the improved charging port I added. The original charging port is no more than a short pigtail located under the hood, which was not as accessible as I would like, and definitely not as cool as I would like. So I fixed that with this. The main ingredients to this mod are a 6-foot 3-prong extension cord, a flanged 120-volt power inlet with cover, and some 1/2 inch split wire loom to protect the extension cord. Again, there's a materials list in the video description. I simply cut the male plug off the extension cord and wired it to the inlet once I had routed the wire loom covered extension cord below the floorboard and above the undercarriage like I did with the lighting wires. The original charging cord is plugged into the receptacle on the extension cord and wrapped with electrical tape. There's also a zip tie running through a hole in the frame to secure the extension cord. The hole size required for the charging port is 1 3/4 inches. I wrap the end of the wire loom in the charging port with electrical tape to cover the electrical connections. Some liquid tape will help keep the ends of the electrical tape from unraveling over time. Two screws hold the charging port securely in place. In the battery compartment, there's an almost invisible zip tie here. And one here, keeping the extension cord hugging the sides and away from the batteries. Finally, it's nighttime, and now I get to test out the lights. I head out to the meadow with just the stock headlights on at first. Now I turn on the light bar as well, and suddenly my field of view is much wider and farther. I head for one of the trails through the woods. Here's the headlights only. And with the light bar, huge difference. Let's turn off the headlights and just use the light bar. Obviously, the combination of both is better. This is the rear view without the lights, and with the rear lights on. More than enough light to back up by, or even use as work lights. Nice. I hope I've given you some useful ideas for tricking out your UTV. In part 3, I'll install a dome light and a hazard light, so stay tuned for that. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please click that like button, leave a comment, and by all means, please subscribe. If you want to know when I post new videos, click that little bell. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.